You walk into the room and say nothing. Stillness wraps around you like a blade. She's laughing too loud, too bright, as if trying to prove something to the furniture. But when your eyes meet hers, she forgets what she was defending. She forgets her script. The joke dies on her lips. Something primitive stirs not attraction, not admiration, but recognition. She's seen this before. In dreams she never confessed. In the wolves that watch silently from the tree line. In the father who never explained why he left. Because you did not offer yourself. You did not ask to be wanted. You are absence with a heartbeat, and that is unbearable. She starts inventing stories about you just to breathe. You become the only mirror where her power is not reflected back, and that, paradoxically, becomes power. If this whisper already lives inside your posture, let it echo. Like the video, leave your shadow in the comments, subscribe, and stay near the silence. You become her obsession when you do not validate her existence, because the void that does not worship her becomes the altar she cannot leave. She is surrounded by men who orbit her like obedient moons, flattering, anticipating, reacting. She smiles, and they move. She cries, and they scramble. She tests, and they explain. But then you enter and do not flinch. You remain still while the others dance. You do not echo her beauty back to her. You do not correct her when she provokes. You do not reward her confusion. You simply remain. At first, this is irritating, a splinter in her confidence. She has learned to use silence as bait, and she expects men to fill it with approval. But you don't. Your silence is not confusion. It is not hesitation. It is refusal, sharp, deliberate, clean. You refuse to collapse into her gravity, and so hers begins to bend around yours. She tests you again, an insult hidden in a smile, a story designed to evoke jealousy, a glance too long at the man beside you. But you are unmoved. You offer no reaction, no punishment, no reward. This is not a game you are playing. It is a throne you are not offering. And that changes everything. For her, attention has always been a currency, a negotiation, a mirror she controls. But your silence is not currency, it is absence. And absence cannot be traded. It is infinite, it is free. That makes it terrifying. Now she is left alone in the mirror. She tries harder, louder laughter, sharper sarcasm, more skin, more flair, more noise. But the more she performs, the more your silence expands. It doesn't shrink before her, it grows, it devours. And somewhere in that devouring, a panic begins. Because if you are not reacting, then you are not needing. And if you are not needing, then you are not hers. You become the only man in the room whose validation she cannot predict, the only one whose worship she cannot secure. And that unpredictability is more intimate than praise. It means she is seen but not chosen, touched but not claimed. And so, she begins to orbit you. Not because you charmed her, not because you pursued her, but because you were the only one who did not offer himself. In that withholding, you revealed the architecture of power. The one who does not chase becomes the one who is followed. She begins thinking about you when you are not there. Her mind fills in the gaps, invents reasons, imagines motives. Why didn't he speak? What is he thinking? Did I displease him? Is he seeing someone else? These thoughts are not curiosity, they are chains. You did not place them. She forged them from your silence. And now, something begins to rot inside her usual certainty. The script doesn't work on you. Her weapon validation control misfires. You did not flatter her when she expected it. You did not punish her when she crossed the line. You gave her nothing. And nothing is the most dangerous thing a woman can be given, because she will try to fill it with everything. Soon, she tries to be better, softer voice, less sarcasm. She pretends not to notice you, but her eyes flicker. She says your name carefully now, with the reverence of someone who knows she is not being answered. You have become the enigma in her symphony of certainty, and an enigma is more erotic than a compliment. She begins doubting herself. This is crucial. Her self-image, once untouchable, begins to ripple, because your silence is not rejection. Rejection still means you noticed, but you gave her nothing, not even a name for your absence. You became the unspoken, and the unspoken is never forgotten. She tells herself she doesn't care, that you're arrogant, distant, cold, but the very effort of this self-protection means she has already knelt. The one who must explain your silence to herself has already placed you in the temple of thought, and that is where obsession is born. Now, when she sees other men, she sees your absence in their presence. Their compliments feel forced. Their smiles feel cheap. Their praise, once intoxicating, now tastes like sugar poured over rot. Because you taught her something she cannot unlearn, that validation given freely has no value. That the one who withholds defines the price of intimacy. And now she offers herself in subtle ways, not grand gestures, those would break the illusion. No, she becomes more refined. She places herself near you, her body slightly angled, her words filtered through caution. She laughs less loudly, more carefully. She becomes smaller, not because you asked her to, but because your silence made her examine the size of her performance. This is not cruelty. You did not hurt her. You simply did not chase. And in a world where men chase to prove worth, the one who doesn't becomes worthy beyond understanding. Not by dominance, but by absence. Not by seduction, but by indifference. And this indifference is not blank. It is full. It is watchful. You see her, and that is the violence. You see through her, not the mask she curates, but the hunger beneath it. The panic, the girl inside the woman, still screaming for her father's eyes, still waiting for a man to stay without begging, still building altars out of attention, but you do not kneel at that altar. You burn it with silence. Now, she can't stop thinking of you, because every other man has now become a copy of what you are not. You have ruined her appetite for men who offer too much, respond too quickly, explain too eagerly. You have redefined presence by being absent. You have become her only option, not because she chose you, but because her soul was already kneeling. And so you remain still, and she comes closer, not because you promised her anything, but because your silence withheld everything. She longs to be seen, but your gaze doesn't reflect her, it absorbs her, breaking her illusion of control and collapsing her identity into yours. She dresses for you now, though she tells herself she isn't. Every detail is calibrated, the slight smudge of eyeliner meant to suggest effortless beauty. The half-open book on her lap meant to display depth. She is not just showing herself, she is offering a curated mirror, expecting you to play your part, to look, to affirm, to respond. But your gaze remains uncooperative. You look at her, but you do not validate. You see, but you do not reflect. And this difference shatters something ancient in her. Because most men reflect, they see what she projects: the beauty, the intellect, the mischief, and reflect it back, feeding her illusion that she is in control of their desire, that she is the author of the gaze. But your gaze takes. It doesn't admire, it examines. It doesn't worship, it dissects. It doesn't bounce off her, it absorbs her like shadow into ink. It devours the performance and leaves the real thing trembling underneath. She begins to lose shape in your presence, not physically, but psychologically. The identities she wore so effortlessly, the seductress, the rebel, the girl next door, they no longer fit. They slip or they crumble because your gaze does not allow illusion to survive. Your eyes are not asking, "Who are you?" They are saying, "I already know," and she can feel it deep in her stomach. Something writhes, a primal vulnerability. It is not fear of judgment, it is the terror of being seen without filter, and worse, being seen by someone who does not flinch. She cannot manipulate you with praise, she cannot win you with charm. Her masks are falling, and you are still watching silently, steadily, as if you knew they would fall before she did. It is not dominance. Dominance still requires acknowledgement. What you hold is more terrifying, invisible authorship. She feels as if she's entering a story she did not write, a gravity she did not choose, and yet she walks toward it willingly. Her words become questions, her opinions become pauses. She watches your reactions like a child waiting for lightning. You do not give her thunder, you nod slowly, you tilt your head, but you do not mirror, you do not smile because she smiled. You do not raise your voice to match hers. You are a foreign rhythm in a world of synced patterns, and that makes you unforgettable. At night, when the room is quiet and the makeup is washed away, she stares at her reflection and sees the cracks you left. She sees the part of her that isn't sure anymore, the part that hesitates, the part that wants to be mirrored and is horrified that you don't. She has always been reflected, always admired, but now she has encountered something different, someone who does not confirm who she is, and in that absence creates who she is becoming. Because to be mirrored is safe, but to be absorbed is holy. Your presence rewrites her center. The way she holds a glass now feels different, as if you are watching. The way she speaks to others now carries your silence. She adjusts her tone unconsciously. She questions her words. She edits herself not because you demanded it, but because your lack of reflection has created a hunger to be defined by something real. You have become the void in which she finds her form. And here is the Nietzschean cruelty. She begins to desire not your approval, but your withdrawal. She begins to crave the very thing that destabilizes her. She wants to be collapsed. She wants to be undone. Not in a masochistic way, but in the way that a cathedral wants to burn in the presence of a god. You are no longer a man to her. You are a force. A mirror that does not reflect, but contains. The others still orbit her, still mirror her. They offer easy safety, but their gaze feels thin now, like the shine on plastic. Yours is made of obsidian, cold, heavy, real, and she wants to be buried inside it, not just noticed, known. She tries, now, to draw something from you. She tells you a secret, not a real one, a curated vulnerability, something that worked before, a dead relative, a childhood scar. But you do not rush to comfort. You nod, you wait, and in your waiting, she sees it. You are not moved by performance. You do not need to be needed. You are listening, not because it makes you useful, but because you are measuring truth. That terrifies her, that excites her. Now her reflection begins to fade even more. She becomes obsessed with what you see that she doesn't. She questions her jokes, her gestures, her old tricks. Her friends notice. She's quieter now, softer, not submissive, but uncertain. And in that uncertainty, you become the anchor, not because you reassured her, but because your lack of reassurance forced her to find gravity. You are the weight beneath her floating self, and that weight is addictive. She doesn't understand it. She wants to hate it. She wants to say you're arrogant, emotionally distant. But the truth is darker. You have exposed the hollowness of her persona, and now she cannot unsee it. She sends a message. It's casual, meant to appear accidental, but it's a test. She wants to know if you still exist when she reaches. You do respond, but not in the way she expects. You are brief, unaffected, but not cold. It is the kind of answer that invites no follow-up and yet echoes for hours. She rereads it, analyzes it. She shows it to no one, because it is not the words that matter, it is the silence between them. And now, you live inside her rhythm, not loudly, not forcefully, but inevitably. She dresses, speaks, and walks with the ghost of your gaze nearby. Because you were the first man who did not give her reflection, and in that denial, you gave her revelation. She doesn't know who she is now, not entirely, and for the first time in her life. That is not liberating. That is terrifying. Because identity, once shaken, becomes an earthquake, and in the wreckage, the only structure left standing is you. She looks at you now not as an opportunity, but as a truth. She may never possess you. You may never offer her the mirror she so desperately craves. But your silence became a blade, and now, even her beauty bleeds. And still, she wants more. She submits to the one who never kneels, not because he asks, but because she senses the unshakable solitude behind his disinterest. You do not posture, you do not correct, you do not compete. The room does not bend around you, but it notices. Women speak louder when you're near, not because you demand attention, but because your silence reminds them they've forgotten how to feel small. Men glance your way, then exaggerate themselves, as if to prove their own pulse still matters. But you stay still, like a blade in the dirt, like an altar that never advertised worship but still burns with offerings. She watches this. She feels it before she understands it. You are not performing masculinity. You are unburdened by the need to be anything, and that is your violence. She is used to kings who build castles from insecurity, who sit on thrones carved from approval. But you are different. You do not need a throne because your solitude is already sovereign. She cannot seduce you, not fully. She has tried. The glances, the laughter, the clever words meant to hook you, but you did not respond like prey. You responded like a shadow shifting but never possessed. And so she stops trying to win. She starts trying to serve, not because you demanded it, but because you left her with no other way to stay near your presence. You do not lead with promises. You do not lure with romance. Your presence is not a performance. It is a sentence she cannot finish, a rhythm she cannot master. You did not say, "I am powerful," but she saw power in the way you left her waiting for meaning, waiting for eye contact, waiting for the moment you would finally name her beauty and make it real. But you never do, and that silence makes her frantic, makes her question, makes her kneel. She does not even call it submission, not yet. She tells herself it's fascination, curiosity, mystery, but her body knows the truth before her mind does. The softening when you walk by, the stillness in your voice when you speak, the internal rearrangement of priorities. She is no longer looking for affection. She is looking for structure, and your detachment builds it. You are not cruel. You are not careless. You are precise. You choose your words like stones placed in a garden. Your silences are not neglect, they are direction. She adjusts herself to them like water carving rock. In your absence of need, she discovers need. In your lack of flattery, she becomes obsessed with being worthy. And when you finally speak slowly, without decoration, she holds her breath. Because now every word costs something, and she wants to be purchased by your attention. There are other men. They offer gifts. They text back quickly. They make plans. They ask questions. But their effort feels light now. Loud. Disorganized. Yours, by contrast, is architecture. You do not pursue. You arrive. You do not rush. You stand. And in that standing, you reveal every other man's trembling. She begins to wonder what makes you whole. You do not share easily. You offer glimpses like smoke behind glass. She tries to find the crack, a memory, a wound, a weakness. But even your pain is unspoken. Even your vulnerability is sovereign. You have suffered. She can sense it, but you did not become soft. You became still, and that stillness humbles her. Because deep down, she has always searched for a man whose inner world could not be edited. Someone whose silence did not mean confusion, but clarity. Someone whose solitude was not a signal of emotional damage, but spiritual authority. And now she has found him, and he does not kneel. She begins offering you loyalty before she knows the cost. Her decisions shift. Her plans account for your existence. She does not ask if you feel the same, because to ask would be to break the spell. You have not promised her anything. You do not need to. The absence of promise has become its own covenant. Your boundaries are quiet. You do not state them. You embody them. And that embodiment rewires her. She no longer seeks to dominate. She seeks to be received. She no longer measures worth by conquest, but by proximity to your indifference. You are not withholding. You are simply not needing. And that, paradoxically, makes her give attention, give care, give allegiance. You become the only man she feels naked around, not because of sex, but because of silence. You are the man who sees her power and does not reach for it, who sees her games and does not react, who sees her softness and does not rush to own it. She tries to reverse the spell. She flirts with others in front of you. She disappears for days. She mentions the man who begged for her time. But you do not flinch. You are not measuring yourself against their performance. You are beyond comparison, and that scares her because it means you cannot be manipulated. You cannot be tempted. You cannot be moved by anything except your own will. She begins to confess small things now, not to win you, but to be real near you. The layers fall. The performances slow. She does not know why she is quieter now, why she is gentler. But you know, it is not submission to a man. It is submission to a force, a presence, a sovereign energy that does not need to be proven, and therefore cannot be denied. You do not ask her to kneel, you never would, and yet she does, not physically, but in tone, in trust, in thought. She consults your silence before she speaks. She looks for your eyes when she questions herself. She behaves differently in your presence, not because you required it, but because your presence made pretense impossible. You never crowned yourself king, but in your refusal to wear the costume, you became the only man whose authority is not stolen, but recognized. She used to believe the most powerful man was the one who conquered. Now, she understands the most powerful man is the one who withstands, who remains unmoved while others chase, who listens while others demand, who stands while others kneel for applause. You do not need a throne. You never sat. You stood, and she followed. She walks a corridor with no walls, only wind. Every step feels rehearsed, but the path was never drawn. The sky above her is still, like an eye that no longer blinks. Somewhere behind her, 1,000 men call her name. She does not turn. Their voices are too loud to be real. Ahead, the outline of a figure, unmoving, uninviting, unavoidable. She is not sure if it is you or the absence you left behind. She reaches for your name but finds no language, only the memory of your gaze. It lives inside her now, like a room with no mirrors. She can feel herself fading in it, and that, finally, makes her real. She kneels, not to be chosen, but because the one who never needed her became the only one she could not leave. And somewhere beyond her knowing you turn, but do not speak.